house that never let anyone leave. Narration begins. If you're listening to this late at night, turn on a light. Because what I'm about to tell you happened 25 years ago during the fall of 2001. I didn't believe in ghosts back then. I believed every strange sound had an explanation. Every shadow had a source. Every story about haunted houses was just another local legend invented to scare kids. I was wrong. My name is Daniel Harper. Back then, I was 26 years old and worked as a freelance photographer in Burlington, Vermont. I wasn't famous, I wasn't rich. I spent most weekends driving across New England taking pictures of abandoned farms, forgotten churches, and old Victorian homes that people had left behind decades earlier. There was something beautiful about places everyone else ignored. Weathered wood, broken windows, dust floating through sunlight. It felt like history was frozen inside those buildings. One Friday afternoon, I received a phone call from a man named Richard Wells. He owned a small historical preservation company. He had seen some of my photographs in a local newspaper and wanted to hire me. "There's an old house outside Black Hollow," he said. "We need interior photos before demolition." I asked why they were tearing it down. He hesitated. "Too dangerous?" That answer felt strangely incomplete. Still, the pay was excellent, almost double my normal rate. I accepted without asking more questions. The address led me nearly 2 hours north, far beyond the tourist towns and maple farms. The road narrowed into cracked pavement, then gravel, then dirt. By sunset, I reached Black Hollow. It barely qualified as a town. One gas station, a church, a grocery store that looked like it hadn't changed since the 1970s. When I stopped for coffee, the cashier noticed the address written on my dashboard. "You heading up there?" I nodded. "The old Ashcroft place." His smile disappeared. "You should finish before dark, sir." I laughed. "I'm just taking pictures." So were the others. The room became strangely quiet. A customer loading groceries into his truck looked away as if he hadn't heard the conversation. The cashier leaned closer. "If the lights come on..." He stopped talking. "If what?" "Just leave." I smiled politely. People in small towns loved ghost stories. Every forgotten building had one. As I drove away, I noticed something odd. No one looked back toward the road leading to the house, almost as if they were avoiding it. 15 minutes later, the trees swallowed the last signs of civilization. The forest became unnaturally silent. No birds, no insects, only the sound of my tires crunching over loose gravel. Eventually, I saw it. The Ashcroft House. It stood alone on top of a gentle hill, 3 stories, dark gray wood, a wraparound porch, sagging under decades of neglect. Half the windows were broken. The others reflected the dying orange sky like blank eyes. A rusted iron gate hung open. I parked beside an abandoned pickup truck that looked like it hadn't moved in years. The engine ticked as it cooled. The silence felt heavy, like the house was listening. I grabbed my camera equipment and walked toward the front porch. Every floorboard groaned beneath my boots. The front door was already unlocked. Inside, the air smelled like mold, old paper, and something metallic, almost like dried blood. Dust covered everything. Furniture remained exactly where the owners had left it decades earlier. Family portraits still hung on faded wallpaper. Children smiled from photographs whose glass had cracked with age. I started photographing each room. The living room, the dining room, the staircase. Everything looked abandoned, normal, until I reached the second floor. That's when I noticed something impossible. Fresh footprints. Not dusty footprints. Clean ones. Someone had walked through the hallway recently. I knelt down. The prints looked wet, but when I touched them, the floor was completely dry. I followed the trail toward the last bedroom. The door stood slightly open. Inside sat an old rocking chair facing the window. It was moving, slowly, back and forth, back and forth. There wasn't any wind. Every window was nailed shut. I told myself the floor wasn't level. Old houses shifted. Gravity could explain it. I raised my camera. The moment I pressed the shutter, the rocking chair stopped. Completely. Dead still. Then, my camera flashed, even though I hadn't enabled the flash. The entire room lit up for a fraction of a second. In that instant, I wasn't alone. Standing beside the rocking chair was a little girl, no older than 8. Long black hair covered most of her face. She wore an old white dress stained with dirt. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring directly into the hallway behind me. I spun around. No one. When I turned back, the room was empty. Only the rocking chair remained, perfectly still. My breathing became shallow. I looked at the camera screen. The photograph had already saved. I opened it. The chair appeared exactly where I'd seen it. But the little girl wasn't beside it. She was standing behind me, smiling. I dropped the camera. It hit the wooden floor with a loud crack. For a second, I couldn't breathe. I stared at the tiny LCD screen lying face up on the floor. The photograph hadn't changed. The little girl was still there, standing only a few feet behind where I'd been, smiling. Not a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile that never reached the eyes. Slowly, I turned around again. The hallway was empty, no footsteps, no breathing, no movement, just silence. The kind of silence that makes your own heartbeat sound too loud. I picked up the camera with shaking hands. Maybe it was a reflection, a camera glitch, double exposure, anything but what my eyes were telling me. I snapped another picture of the hallway. Nothing, just old wallpaper, rotting wood, a cracked mirror at the end of the corridor. I looked at the mirror. Something felt wrong. Not because of what I saw, but because of what I didn't. My reflection blinked. I hadn't. My stomach tightened. I stepped backward. The reflection remained perfectly still for another second, then slowly smiled. I ran. Every instinct in my body screamed to get out of that hallway. I rushed downstairs, nearly slipping on the worn steps. By the time I reached the front door, I was breathing so hard it hurt. I grabbed the doorknob, twisted, nothing, locked. That couldn't be right. I remembered clearly. The door had been unlocked when I came inside. I pulled harder. Still nothing. Panic began creeping into my chest. I walked to the nearest window. The glass was filthy, but I could still see outside. My truck was exactly where I'd parked it, less than 50 yards away. Freedom was right there. I slammed my shoulder into the window. The glass didn't even crack. I tried again. Nothing. It felt solid, almost like concrete hidden beneath the glass. I stepped back. "Okay," I whispered. "Think." Old houses had back doors. I hurried toward the kitchen. There was another exit. I grabbed the handle. Locked. Every window, every door sealed. I checked my phone. No signal. One battery bar remained. Then, the screen flickered. Without touching it, the phone opened the camera app. I frowned. The camera pointed toward the kitchen doorway. Nothing there. Then the screen went black. Static. For a split second, a face appeared. An elderly woman, sunken eyes, gray skin. Her mouth opened impossibly wide. The phone shut itself off. The battery hadn't died. It simply stopped working. I shoved it into my pocket. Enough. I wasn't staying another minute. I grabbed a heavy iron fireplace poker. If I couldn't open a window, I'd break one. The first strike echoed through the house. Clang! The poker bounced off the glass. Not a scratch. I hit it again and again. The window refused to break. That's when I heard it. A soft laugh, a child's laugh. Somewhere upstairs, I froze. Another laugh. This time, closer, followed by tiny footsteps. Tap, tap, tap. Running across the second floor, then another set and another. As if several children were playing a game above me, I looked toward the staircase. No one. The footsteps stopped. The entire house became quiet again. Until creak, the rocking chair. It had started moving again, slowly, back and forth. Even though it was upstairs, I could hear every movement. Creak, creak, creak. I wanted to leave. Every cell in my body wanted to run. Instead, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I decided to find out who was making those sounds. I climbed the staircase again, one careful step at a time. The hallway looked exactly as before, except now, every bedroom door was open. I was certain they had been closed earlier. The rocking had stopped. Complete silence. I walked toward the little girl's room. Empty. The chair no longer moved. Then I noticed something on the floor. A small stuffed rabbit. Old. Covered in dust. It hadn't been there before. Someone, or something, had placed it there. I bent down to pick it up. The fabric felt damp, warm, almost alive. Suddenly, a voice whispered directly into my ear, Don't touch my bunny." The whisper was so close, I felt warm breath against my neck. I spun around so fast I nearly fell. No one. The hallway remained empty. But now, every bedroom door had quietly closed, one after another, without making a sound. Only one door remained open, at the very end of the hallway, a room I hadn't entered before. Darkness filled the doorway, and from somewhere inside, an old music box began to play, a slow, broken lullaby. I should have walked away. Instead, I took one step toward the sound, hunted, then another. As I reached the doorway, the music stopped. A little girl's voice came from inside the darkness, soft, almost innocent. "You came back." And before I could react, the bedroom door slammed shut behind me. The slam echoed through the room like a gunshot. For several seconds, I couldn't move. The only sound was my own breathing, fast, uneven. I reached behind me and grabbed the doorknob. It wouldn't turn, locked. Again. I swallowed hard and forced myself to look around. The room was unlike the others. There was almost no dust. The wallpaper, although faded, was still intact. A small wooden bed stood against one wall. A dollhouse rested in the corner. An old rocking horse faced the window. Everything looked as though someone had walked away only yesterday, except no one had lived here in decades. The music box sat on a tiny bedside table. Its lid was open, but the melody had stopped. I took a cautious step forward. The floor creaked beneath my boots. Another step, then another. The air suddenly became colder, so cold that I could see my breath. A strange smell filled the room, not mold, not decay. It smelled like wet earth after heavy rain, mixed with something sweet, like old perfume. I looked toward the bed. At first it seemed empty, then I noticed the blanket. It slowly sank, as if someone invisible had just sat down. I froze. The mattress dipped deeper. A second depression appeared beside the first. Someone else had joined them. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. "Who's there?" I whispered. No answer. Instead, The blanket slowly lifted, like invisible hands were pulling it back. The bed beneath it was empty, yet the mattress remained compressed. Something was still sitting there, watching me. Suddenly, the closet door creaked open by itself. Inside, hanging neatly on tiny wooden hangers, were children's clothes. Dozens of them, every dress, every shirt, every tiny coat, covered in dark brown stains. I didn't need anyone to tell me what those stains probably were. I backed away. Then I heard breathing. Not mine. Slow. Deep. Right behind me. I turned. Nothing. The room was empty, but the breathing continued. Now from my left, then my right, then directly above me, as if something unseen was circling me. I squeezed my camera until my fingers hurt. Almost without thinking, I raised it and took another photograph. The flash exploded across the room. For an instant, everything looked normal. Then I checked the picture. Every invisible impression on the bed was gone. Instead, 5 children stood around me, their pale faces expressionless. They weren't looking at the camera. They were all staring at me. Each child had dark, hollow eyes, except the little girl in the white dress. She was smiling again, but this time she wasn't behind me. She was standing so close. Her face almost touched mine. I dropped the camera once more. "No," I whispered, "this isn't real." A small voice answered, "It is now." The words came from nowhere and everywhere. The room suddenly shook, not violently, just enough for the walls to groan. The dollhouse in the corner rattled. One tiny front door slowly swung open. For reasons I still can't explain, I walked toward it. The dollhouse was incredibly detailed. It was an exact miniature copy of the Ashcroft House. Every room, every staircase, every window, even the broken porch outside, someone had recreated the entire house. I leaned closer. Tiny furniture filled each room. Then I noticed something impossible. Small figures, 6 little dolls, standing inside the upstairs bedroom. One larger figure, holding what looked like a camera. My blood ran cold. The doll was dressed exactly like me. Blue jacket, brown boots, camera hanging from one shoulder. I stared in disbelief. Then, the tiny figure moved. It slowly turned its head and looked directly at me. I stumbled backward. The dollhouse lights flickered on. Every miniature window glowed with warm yellow light. Outside, night had fallen, but I hadn't noticed the sun setting. How long had I been inside this room? Minutes? Hours? I couldn't tell anymore. My watch had stopped. Its second hand trembled between 2 numbers, never moving. Then, knock. 3 slow knocks echoed from beneath the floor. Knock, knock, knock. I looked down. The sound came from directly underneath my feet. Another 3 knocks, louder this time. Then a voice, muffled, desperate, "Help!" A man, alive, or at least, it sounded alive. I dropped to my knees. "Hello?" Silence, then, "Please." They locked me down here. Every instinct told me not to answer, but another part of me, the rational part, believed there had to be a basement. Maybe someone really was trapped. Maybe everything else I'd experienced had some explanation. Maybe this was real. The voice spoke again. "We don't have much time." "We?" No answer. Instead, the little girl's voice whispered from directly behind me. "Don't listen to him." I turned. She was finally standing there, not in a photograph, not in a reflection. She was real, barefoot, pale, her white dress stained with mud, long black hair partially covering one eye. She looked no older than 8. She pointed toward the floor. "He lies." Then she slowly raised one trembling finger toward the ceiling. They're waking up. Before I could ask what she meant, a deafening crash exploded somewhere above us, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps. Not children's footsteps, adult footsteps, slow, deliberate, walking across the third floor, one step at a time. The footsteps above us were impossibly heavy. Thud, thud, thud. Each one made the ceiling tremble. Dust drifted from the wooden beams like gray snow. The little girl didn't look frightened. She looked disappointed, as if she had hoped it wouldn't wake up. She slowly raised one finger to her lips. "Don't let it hear you." Her voice was barely a whisper. I opened my mouth to ask who it was. She shook her head before I could speak. "No names." "What do you mean?" "If you say its name, it knows where you are." A chill raced down my spine. The footsteps stopped. The silence that followed was somehow worse. Then, creak. A door opened on the third floor. Slowly, patiently. I looked toward the ceiling. The girl was staring upward. Her smile had vanished. For the first time, she looked afraid. Then something happened that still haunts me. A shadow appeared beneath the bedroom door. Not outside, inside the room. It slid under the gap like thick black smoke. It shouldn't have been possible. There was no light in the hallway to cast a shadow, yet it kept spreading across the wooden floor. Long, thin, moving with purpose. The girl stepped backward. It found us. The shadow stopped just inches from my boots. Then it slowly pulled away, retreating beneath the door again. The heavy footsteps resumed. Only this time, they were coming downstairs. Thud, thud, thud. Every step echoed through the house. Second floor, closer. I grabbed the doorknob and pulled with all my strength. Nothing, still locked. The girl looked toward the old wardrobe. "Hide." "What about you?" "I've been hiding for 25 years. Before I could answer, she simply faded. Not disappeared all at once. She became transparent, like fog dissolving in sunlight. Then she was gone. The room was empty again, except for the footsteps. They stopped outside the bedroom. Complete silence. Then, a slow scrape, as if long fingernails were dragging across the outside of the door. Scratch, scratch, scratch. The sound traveled from the top of the door all the way down. My heart pounded so loudly I was certain whatever stood outside could hear it. The doorknob turned, very slowly, once, twice, then stopped. Someone, or something, was testing the lock. I held my breath. The scratching returned. This time, on the wall beside me, I looked. Thin black lines were appearing in the faded wallpaper, one after another, as though invisible claws were carving through it from the inside. The wallpaper peeled away. Behind it were words. Hundreds of words, written over and over in faded black ink. "Don't open the attic. Don't look up. It isn't human." Every sentence was written in a different handwriting. Some neat, some hurried. Some looked as though they had been written by children, others by people losing their minds. Near the bottom of the wall, one message stood apart from the rest. It was written in dark, reddish-brown letters. Not ink, something thicker. It read, "If you hear someone you know, don't answer." A loud knock interrupted my thoughts. 3 sharp knocks on the bedroom door. Then, a familiar voice. "Daniel?" I froze. My blood turned to ice. It was my younger brother, Michael. Impossible. Michael was over 200 miles away in Boston. "Daniel?" His voice sounded frightened. "Open the door, please." Every instinct told me to run to him. but I remembered the message on the wall. If you hear someone you know, don't answer. Another knock, harder this time. Daniel, it's me. I've been looking for you. Tears filled my eyes. The voice was perfect. Every pause, every breath, every detail. It was Michael. Then, another voice. My mother. Soft, gentle. Sweetheart, please let us in. I squeezed my eyes shut. No, I whispered, you aren't real. The voices stopped. For a full 10 seconds, nothing. Then both voices spoke at exactly the same time, not one after another, together, perfectly synchronized. Their words stretched unnaturally. You're learning. The voices changed, growing deeper, rougher, until they no longer sounded human. A violent bang shook the bedroom door. The entire frame splintered. Another hit. The hinges groaned. One more impact and the door would break. I looked around desperately. There had to be another way out. My eyes landed on the window, still nailed shut. But beside it, a narrow servant's door I hadn't noticed before, barely large enough for one person. I pulled it open. A steep staircase disappeared into darkness, leading upward, toward the attic, toward the one place every warning in the house had told me to avoid. Behind me, the bedroom door cracked down the middle, another hit. Wood exploded inward. A long, pale hand reached through the opening. Its fingers were impossibly thin, far too long, and they were feeling around. Searching for me, I had only seconds to decide. Stay, or climb into the attic. I stepped onto the narrow staircase, pulled the tiny door shut behind me, and began climbing into the darkness. The narrow staircase groaned beneath my weight. Each step felt older than the house itself. The air grew colder. Not the kind of cold you feel in winter. This was different. It felt empty, like all the warmth had been stolen from the air. I kept climbing. The tiny door below me shook violently. Bang! Something slammed into it once, twice. Then, silence. I stopped halfway up the staircase. My flashlight barely illuminated the walls. They weren't made of ordinary wood anymore. The boards were covered with thousands of scratches. Some were shallow. Others had been carved so deeply they nearly split the timber. I shined the light closer. They weren't random marks. They were tally marks. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. Someone had been counting. Days, weeks, years. Near the top of the staircase, I found a message carved into the wood. It only hunts after midnight. I instinctively checked my watch. It had started working again. 11:58 p.m. My stomach dropped. That couldn't be right. When I entered the house, it had been late afternoon. There was no way I had been inside for over 7 hours, unless time inside the house didn't move the same way. A faint sound drifted through the darkness. Tick, tick, tick. It sounded like an old grandfather clock, slow, steady, waiting. I reached the attic door. It was slightly open, only a thin crack. Warm yellow light seeped through. Warm. That made no sense. Everything else in the house had been freezing cold. I hesitated. Every warning I had seen told me not to enter. But there was nowhere else to go. I slowly pushed the door open. The attic was enormous, much larger than it should have been. Rows of antique furniture stretched into the darkness. Dust-covered mirrors leaned against the walls, broken trunks, old paintings, children's toys. It looked less like an attic and more like a forgotten museum. At the center of the room stood a massive grandfather clock. Its pendulum swung slowly. Tick, tick, tick. 11:59 p.m. The hands moved with painful slowness. I walked closer. Something hung above the clock. Photographs, hundreds of them, suspended from thin strings. They gently swayed in the still air. I reached for the nearest one. It showed a smiling family standing in front of the Ashcroft House. The photo was dated 1968. The next one, 1979. Another, 1987. 1988. 1989. Each photograph featured different people, different families, different visitors, but every single picture had one thing in common. Someone was missing: a child, a father, a wife. One person had vanished from every family portrait, as though they had never existed. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Then I found another photograph. My hands began shaking. It was me, standing beside my truck. Earlier that afternoon, someone had taken my picture from outside without me ever noticing. On the back, written in faded black ink, were 5 words. He arrived before sunset. I dropped the photo. More photographs fluttered to the floor. One landed face up. It showed the little girl in the white dress. She wasn't smiling. She looked terrified. Standing behind her, was a tall figure. So tall its head nearly touched the ceiling. Its face was hidden in darkness. Only its unnaturally long arms were visible. One hand rested gently on the little girl's shoulder, as if claiming her. Then, the grandfather clock chimed. One deep, resonating bell. Midnight. The pendulum stopped. Every light in the attic went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Not ordinary darkness. This darkness felt alive, moving, breathing. I switched on my flashlight. Nothing. Dead. My phone. Still dead. The only light came from the moon filtering through a small circular attic window, just enough to reveal silhouettes. Then, a whisper. Not from behind me, not beside me, from everywhere. It knows you're here. Another whisper answered. He looked up. A third. He broke the rule. I remembered the warning on the wall. Don't look up. Slowly. Very slowly. I realized what I'd done when I entered the attic. I had instinctively looked toward the ceiling. I'd already broken the rule. My breathing became shallow. Something above me shifted. Wood creaked overhead. But there was no floor above the attic. Only the roof. Another creak. Closer. Then, a single drop of black liquid landed on my shoulder, cold, thick. I refused to look up. Every instinct screamed at me to run. Instead, I stared at the floor. Another drop, then another. They landed around my boots. The whispers became louder. Don't look up. A deep inhale echoed directly above my head, as if something enormous was taking a slow breath. The smell hit me next. Rotting earth, wet leaves, and something metallic. Blood. Very slowly. Without raising my eyes, I noticed a shadow stretching across the floor in front of me. It wasn't my shadow. It had far too many arms. The fingers slowly reached toward my feet, then stopped, completely still. The whisper came one last time, barely audible. If it sees your eyes, it keeps them. A long, thin, bone-white finger lowered into my field of vision, hanging just inches in front of my face, motionless, waiting, as if inviting me to do the one thing I shouldn't. Look up. I locked my eyes on the floor, not because I was brave, because I was terrified. That pale finger hung in front of my face without moving. It wasn't reaching for me, it was waiting, patiently, like it already knew curiosity would eventually win. I clenched my fists and took one careful step backward. The finger followed, slowly, silently, always remaining inches from my eyes. Another step. Again, it matched me perfectly. My breathing became shallow. The whispers returned. Don't look. Keep walking. It can't take what it can't see. focused on the wooden floorboards, one board at a time. Then something unexpected happened. A small hand slipped into mine, ice cold. I almost screamed. But when I glanced sideways, keeping my head low, it was the little girl. She was standing beside me. This time she looked different. No smile, no empty stare. Tears rolled silently down her pale cheeks. Without speaking, she gently squeezed my hand and pointed toward the far side of the attic. A narrow opening, hidden behind old furniture. I nodded. We began walking, slowly, never looking up. The entire attic seemed to breathe around us. Old trunks creaked, mirrors trembled. The grandfather clock started ticking again. Tick, tick, tick. Each tick sounded louder than the last. Then, a deep voice echoed from above. Not angry, not loud, just ancient. You shouldn't have come here. The words vibrated through the wood beneath my boots. The girl squeezed my hand tighter. Don't answer, she whispered. I stayed silent. The voice spoke again. I've been waiting for someone who still remembers fear. The floor suddenly shook. A loud crash came from somewhere behind us. One of the mirrors had fallen. It shattered into hundreds of pieces. Against my better judgment, I looked at the broken glass on the floor. Every shard reflected the attic, except one. In that single shard, I wasn't standing beside the little girl. I was standing alone, and behind me, something impossibly tall bent low as if studying me. Its face remained hidden in darkness, but I could see dozens of long, white fingers wrapped around its own body, like giant spiders' legs. I instantly looked away. The girl pulled me forward. Hurry! We reached the narrow opening. It led into a cramped passage hidden between the attic walls. The space was barely wide enough for us to crawl through. As soon as we entered, the sounds behind us stopped. The silence felt safer. For the first time since entering the house, I managed to breathe normally. The passage stretched farther than I expected. Old beams crossed overhead. Cobwebs clung to every corner. Then I noticed photographs nailed to the wooden supports. Not family photos. Missing person posters. Yellowed with age. Every decade, every face. Some dated 1954, others 1972, 1989, 1990. One poster had only recently faded. Emily Ashcroft, age 8, missing. October 14th, 1978. The picture showed the little girl beside me. She quietly stared at her own photograph. I wasn't lost, she whispered. I never left. My throat tightened. What happened to you? She looked down. My father invited it inside. The words barely escaped her lips. He thought it would make us live forever. Instead, it made sure we never left. A loud thud echoed behind us. The passage trembled. It had found the entrance. The girl looked terrified. It knows where we are now. We crawled faster. The narrow tunnel suddenly opened into a hidden room inside the walls. No windows, no furniture, only shelves. Thousands of journals filled them from floor to ceiling. Leather-bound, dusty, some nearly falling apart with age. The girl handed me one. Read the last page. I opened it. The handwriting became increasingly frantic toward the end. The final entry read, October 13th, 1978. It isn't a ghost. It isn't a demon. It feeds on memory. Every person it takes is slowly forgotten by the world outside. Families stop asking questions. Friends forget names. Photographs change. Records disappear. The house doesn't kill people. It erases them. I stared at the words. My blood ran cold. If that were true, no one would even remember I'd come here. Not my friends, Not my family, not my brother. Eventually, it would be as if I had never existed. A tear rolled down the little girl's cheek. I don't remember my mother's face anymore. The confession broke my heart. She had been trapped here so long. Even her own memories were disappearing. Then we heard it. Footsteps inside the walls, not above us, not outside. Right behind the hidden room. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Thud, thud, thud. The journals on the shelves began to vibrate. Dust drifted into the air. One shelf collapsed. Dozens of journals scattered across the floor. From the darkness beyond the broken shelf, a single enormous eye slowly opened. It wasn't human. It wasn't even animal. Its black pupil narrowed until it locked directly onto me, and for the first time, the ancient voice spoke my full name. Daniel Harper. I remember you. The eye never blinked. It simply stared at me from the darkness beyond the collapsed shelf. It was larger than a dinner plate. Its iris was a dull gray surrounded by veins so dark they looked black. And somehow, I knew it was smiling. Not with a mouth, with the eye itself. The little girl grabbed my arm so tightly it hurt. Don't let it talk to you. My voice barely worked. It knows my name. It learns everyone's name. How? She looked down. It listens. The eye slowly disappeared into the darkness. Then the footsteps began again. Not one set, several. Heavy footsteps from every direction. The walls vibrated. The journals fell from the shelves one after another. Some opened on the floor as if invisible hands were flipping through them. Pages turned by themselves. Thousands of whispered voices filled the room. Every journal belonged to someone who had entered the Ashcroft House and never left. I picked up the nearest one. The final entry was dated 1946. If anyone finds this journal, burn the house. Do not search for us. The house wants rescuers. It is always hungry. Another journal in 1963. I escaped once. I reached the road. By morning, I was standing inside the house again. Another, in 1981. It lets one person leave every generation, but never unchanged. I felt my stomach twist. What does that mean? The little girl didn't answer. Instead, she whispered, "We have to reach the chapel." There's a chapel? Beneath the house. Before I could ask another question, the ancient voice echoed through the hidden room. So many stories, so many lies. The shelves began collapsing all around us. Books crashed to the floor. The entire room shook violently. The little girl pointed toward a narrow tunnel behind the last bookshelf. Run! We crawled through just as the ceiling behind us caved in. Dust exploded through the passage. For several seconds, I couldn't see anything. I crawled blindly, hands scraping against rough timber, splinters cutting into my palms. Then, fresh air, cold air. We emerged into another section of the house. But this wasn't the attic anymore. I recognized the wallpaper, the staircase, the cracked chandelier. It was the second floor again. Impossible. We had crawled downward, not across. Yet somehow, we were back where we'd started. "This house," I whispered, "it changes." The girl nodded. "It always has." A sudden sound echoed from downstairs, a door opening, not slamming, opening. Then voices, real voices, men's voices. "Hello? This is the sheriff's department." My heart leaped. Rescue! I rushed toward the staircase. The little girl grabbed my jacket. "No, they're not real, but I hear them. That's what it wants." Downstairs, a flashlight beam swept across the hallway. Another voice shouted, "Daniel Harper! We've been searching all night." My eyes filled with tears. Someone had found me. Maybe they had tracked my truck. Maybe Richard Wells had reported me missing. I took one step toward the stairs. The little girl stood in front of me. "If you go down there, you'll never remember who you are." I wanted to believe her, but the voices sounded so real. Then, I heard my brother again. "Daniel, we're here." I froze. The little girl closed her eyes. "They're using him again." I looked over the staircase railing. 3 sheriff's deputies stood in the front hallway. Flashlights, uniforms, badges, everything looked perfectly normal. One of them looked up and smiled. "Come on down. We'll get you home." Relief washed over me. I started walking. One step, then another. The little girl didn't follow. She simply whispered, "I'm sorry." Halfway down the staircase, I noticed something strange. The deputies weren't moving. Not really. Their flashlights moved. Their mouths moved. But their feet never changed position, like actors trapped in a looping scene. Then one deputy looked directly at me. His smile widened, too wide, far wider than any human mouth could stretch. The other 2 smiled exactly the same way, at the exact same moment. All 3 spoke together. "We almost had you." The flashlights went out. Darkness swallowed the first floor. Then every head slowly tilted, until each neck bent with a sickening crack. 180 degrees. They were now facing backward fjords. While still looking directly at me, I stumbled backward in horror. The staircase suddenly shook beneath my feet. Wood splintered. The step I was standing on snapped in half. I fell, grabbing the railing at the last second below me. The first floor wasn't there anymore. The hallway had vanished. Instead, a bottomless pit stretched beneath the house, filled with hundreds of pale faces staring upward. Every face whispered the same words. "Remember us." Cold hands reached up from the darkness, trying to pull me down. Cold fingers wrapped around my ankle. Another hand grabbed my wrist, then another. The faces below weren't screaming. They weren't angry. They were desperate. "Please, don't leave us. Don't forget us." Their voices overlapped until they became one endless whisper. I kicked with everything I had. One hand slipped away, another tightened. My fingers began losing their grip on the broken staircase railing. Then, the little girl seized my jacket with both hands. "Daniel." Her voice snapped me back. She pulled with surprising strength. I grabbed the railing with my free hand and heaved myself upward. The hands below reached one last time, then disappeared into the darkness. The pit vanished. The first floor returned. The hallway looked exactly as it had when I first entered the house, as if nothing had happened. I lay on the landing, gasping for air. The little girl knelt beside me. "You looked." "I didn't mean to." "It wanted you to." She helped me to my feet. For the first time, I noticed something odd. Her feet no longer touched the floor. She hovered only an inch above it, so slightly that I hadn't realized before. I stared. She looked embarrassed. "I don't remember how to walk anymore." Those words hit harder than anything I'd seen all night. She wasn't just trapped here. She had been trapped for so long. She was forgetting what it meant to be alive. A loud bell echoed through the house. Not the grandfather clock. A church bell. 1, 2, 3. The girl looked toward the basement door. "The chapel is awake." We hurried downstairs. Unlike before, the kitchen door stood open. Beyond it was a narrow stone staircase leading underground. I was certain it hadn't been there earlier. The walls changed from old wood to rough stone. Moisture dripped from the ceiling. The air smelled of damp earth and extinguished candles. We descended in silence. At the bottom, a massive iron door stood half open. Carved into it was a single sentence: "Only the truth may leave." The girl whispered, "My father sealed it." Inside lay an underground chapel. Rows of broken pews faced a cracked stone altar. Dozens of candles had melted into thick rivers of wax. Every stained glass window had been shattered long ago. Moonlight poured through the empty frames. In the center of the altar rested a leather-bound Bible. Beside it, a rusted revolver. Neither looked touched by time, as if someone had placed them there only hours ago. I approached carefully. The Bible opened by itself. Its pages fluttered until they stopped near the end. But the final pages weren't scripture. They were handwritten, a confession, signed by Jonathan Ashcroft. I began reading aloud. October 12th, 1978, my daughter Emily became ill. Every doctor failed her. Every prayer went unanswered. Then a stranger came to my door. He promised that death could be defeated. All I had to do, Drew, was invite something ancient into my home. The next page was stained with dried blood. I believed I could control it. I believed I could bargain. I was wrong. It did not save my daughter. It copied her. The real Emily died before sunrise. I slowly lowered the journal. The little girl stood silently beside me. Tears streamed down her face. "So," I whispered, "who are you?" She looked at me with heartbreaking sadness. "I don't know anymore. I remember being Emily, but I also remember watching Emily die. I remember both." A lump formed in my throat. She wasn't lying. Whatever had entered this house had created something that believed it was Emily, yet wasn't. Before I could speak, the candles around the chapel ignited all at once. Blue flames filled the room. The temperature plummeted. The iron door behind us slammed shut. The ancient voice echoed through the chapel. "You've learned enough." The blue flames grew taller. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls. Then, for the first time, it stepped into the light. It was impossibly tall, at least 10 feet high. Its body looked almost human, until you noticed the proportions. Its arms reached nearly to the floor. Its fingers were longer than kitchen knives. Its skin resembled cracked gray stone. Its face had no eyes, no nose. Only a smooth, featureless surface, except for a single vertical mouth. The mouth slowly opened. Inside were hundreds of tiny human teeth, each one different, each one belonging to someone else. It tilted its head toward me, then spoke in dozens of voices at once. Children, women, old men, young men, all speaking together. "Daniel Harper, you remember too much?" The creature took one slow step toward the altar. The stone floor cracked beneath its weight. The little girl stepped in front of me, though she looked terrified. She raised her chin. "You can't have him." For the first time, the creature paused. Then, it laughed. A sound so deep, it made the chapel walls tremble, and it replied with a sentence that froze my blood. He invited me the moment he opened the front door. The creature's laughter echoed through the underground chapel long after its mouth had closed. It wasn't loud. It was endless, like the sound was coming from inside my own head. I took a step backward until my legs touched one of the old wooden pews. The little girl never moved. She stood between me and the creature, her small hands clenched into fists. For the first time, the monster acknowledged her. "You still pretend to be Emily." Its voice was calm, almost gentle. The The girl answered without looking away. I remember enough. The creature tilted its head. No. You remember only what I allowed. A sharp pain exploded behind my eyes. Images flooded my mind. The Ashcroft House. October 1978. A violent thunderstorm. Jonathan Ashcroft carrying his feverish daughter through the front door. Candles, strange symbols painted on the floor. A man in a black coat standing in the corner of the room. His face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. His voice soft and convincing. Open the door. Just once. No soul needs to die tonight. Jonathan hesitated then. He unlocked the front door. A freezing wind rushed inside. Every candle went out. Something invisible crossed the threshold. The man in the black coat smiled and vanished. The vision disappeared. I fell to one knee, gasping. The creature spoke again. You see? No locks, no rituals, no sacrifice, only permission. It raised one impossibly long hand. Every person who enters this house invites me. The little girl looked at me. Don't listen. It mixes truth with lies. I realized something. The confession had never said Jonathan summoned the creature. Only that. He invited it inside. There was a difference, a huge difference. Suddenly, the old Bible slammed shut. The rusted revolver slid across the altar by itself, stopping directly in front of me. The creature looked at it. You may try. It has never worked. I picked up the revolver. It felt surprisingly heavy. The cylinder contained one bullet, only one. The little girl shook her head. That's not for it. What? It never was? The creature smiled, or at least its vertical mouth widened. She's beginning to remember. Blue fire burst from every candle. The walls trembled violently. Cracks spread across the stone ceiling. Dust rained down. The chapel was collapsing. The creature stepped closer. With every step, the room seemed to grow smaller, harder to breathe, harder to think. My memories began slipping away, my mother's face, my childhood home, my first day of school. Tiny pieces of my life simply vanished. I grabbed my head. No, the creature whispered. Memory is such a fragile thing. I keep what people no longer deserve. The little girl suddenly cried out, Daniel, your name! Say your name. What? Say it. Confused, I shouted, my name is Daniel Harper. The pressure eased, only slightly. Again she yelled, again, I'm Daniel Harper. The forgotten memories flickered back. Not all of them, but enough. The creature took one step back. It sounded annoyed. The girl understood something I didn't. It can't erase what you keep remembering. The realization struck me. Names, memories, identity. That was how people fought it. Not with weapons, but by refusing to forget. The creature lunged, faster than anything that large should have been. Its enormous hand swept across the chapel. I dove behind the altar. Stone exploded where I'd been standing. The Bible flew across the room. The revolver slipped from my grasp. It landed near the girl's feet. She stared at it for several seconds. She didn't move. Then she whispered, I remember now. She picked up the revolver, looked directly at the creature, and tears filled her eyes. It wasn't meant for you. The creature froze. For the first time, its confidence disappeared. The little girl slowly turned the revolver toward herself. I shouted, no. She smiled sadly. You still don't understand. I'm not trapped here. I am the lock. The creature roared, a deafening, inhuman sound. Emily. The little girl shook her head. No. My name. She paused, as though searching through decades of fading memories. Then she whispered the words she had almost forgotten. "My name is Emily Ashcroft." The chapel shook violently. The creature screamed again, this time in fear. Emily raised the revolver, placed it against her own chest, looked at me one final time and said, "Remember me." She pulled the trigger. Bang! Everything went white. The gunshot echoed through the chapel. Then everything went silent. Not quiet. Silent. The kind of silence where even your own heartbeat disappears. The white light surrounding me grew brighter until I couldn't see my hands. Then I heard someone crying, a little girl. Not in fear, in relief. The light slowly faded. I opened my eyes. The underground chapel was gone. The blue flames had vanished. The shattered altar, the creature, everything was gone. I was standing in the front yard of the Ashcroft House. Morning sunlight warmed my face. Birds were singing. For the first time since I'd arrived, I could hear life. The forest no longer felt dead. I turned toward the house. It looked older than before. The windows were completely dark. The porch had collapsed. The roof sagged as though decades had passed overnight. My truck was still parked beside the gate, exactly where I had left it. I looked down. The camera still hung around my neck. Its battery somehow was full. The display showed one final photograph. Not one I remembered taking. It was a picture of the front porch. Standing there was Emily. She wore the same white dress, but now it was clean. Her hair was neatly tied back. She smiled. Not the unsettling smile from before, but the warm smile of an ordinary 8-year-old girl. Beside her stood a man and a woman, her parents. Jonathan Ashcroft held Emily's hand. For the first time, the family looked complete. At the bottom of the photograph in faded handwriting were 4 simple words. "Thank you for remembering." A gentle breeze swept through the yard. The image slowly faded from the screen, then disappeared forever. I didn't wait. I climbed into my truck and drove. The dirt road seemed shorter than before. Within minutes, I reached the small gas station in Black Hollow. The same cashier stood behind the counter. When he saw me, the coffee mug slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. He stared as though he'd seen a ghost. He swallowed hard. "I thought you were dead." "What do you mean?" "You've been missing." "For how long?" He hesitated. 28 days. I laughed. "No. I went into the house yesterday afternoon." The cashier slowly shook his head. "The sheriff searched those woods for 3 weeks. They never found you." A cold wave washed over me. I checked the date on the newspaper lying beside the register. He was right. Nearly a month had passed, yet to me, it had felt like a single night. The sheriff arrived less than an hour later. They questioned me for most of the afternoon. Where had I been? How had I survived? Why hadn't I contacted anyone? I told them everything, every room, every whisper, Emily, the chapel, the creature. No one believed me. Of course they didn't. When the officers finally searched the Ashcroft house, they found nothing. No underground chapel, no hidden passage, no journals, no grandfather clock. Only an abandoned house scheduled for demolition. One deputy even joked, "Looks like you spent a month hiding from the world." I didn't argue, because I knew what I'd seen. A week later, the Ashcroft house was demolished. Bulldozers reduced it to splintered wood and broken brick. The land was cleared, the foundation filled with concrete. By the end of the month, nothing remained, or so everyone believed. Life slowly returned to normal, or at least I pretended it had. I stopped photographing abandoned places, I moved to New Hampshire, started working at a local newspaper. Years passed. The nightmares became less frequent. Eventually, I convinced myself maybe trauma had twisted my memories. Maybe I'd imagined everything. Then, 25 years later, last month, I received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a single Polaroid photograph. It showed me standing in front of the Ashcroft House, taken on the day I first arrived. But something had changed. Standing behind me wasn't Emily, it was me, older, exactly the age I am today, smiling. At the bottom of the photo, someone had written a sentence in black ink. You left, but part of you stayed. I dropped the photograph. My phone rang. The number was unknown. Against my better judgment, I answered. There was only static. Then, a little girl's voice, soft, gentle, older somehow. Daniel. A long pause, then the final words that made my blood run cold. Someone opened the front door again. For nearly a minute, I stood frozen with the phone pressed against my ear. The line had gone silent. No breathing, no static, nothing. Then the call disconnected. I looked down at the Polaroid lying on my kitchen floor. It was gone, not fallen under the table, not blown away, gone. Only a faint rectangular outline remained in the dust where it had landed. I searched the entire apartment. Nothing. It was as though the photograph had never existed. But I knew what I'd seen. Someone had opened the front door again. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 2:17 a.m., my laptop turned on by itself. The screen glowed in the darkness. An email had appeared in my inbox. No sender, no subject line. Only one attachment, img_001.jpg. My hands trembled as I opened it. It showed a modern suburban home. Fresh paint, a swing hanging from a maple tree, children's bicycles on the driveway, nothing unusual. Until I zoomed in, standing in an upstairs window, was the same tall figure, featureless face, long arms, watching. The metadata revealed the location, Black Hollow, Vermont, the land where the Ashcroft House once stood. Someone had built a new home there. My heart sank. I drove to Black Hollow the next morning. The gas station was gone. A convenience store had replaced it. The old church had been renovated. The town looked healthier, as if 25 years had erased every trace of the nightmare. When I asked about the Ashcroft House, most people looked confused. One elderly man finally said, "Oh, you mean the Walker place?" Walker, not Ashcroft. Even the name had changed. Memory was being rewritten again. And the new house stood exactly where the old one had once been. Bright white siding, blue shutters, a family barbecue grill on the back patio, children's toys scattered across the lawn. It looked like the safest place in the world. A little boy kicked a soccer ball across the yard. His mother waved politely as I parked. "Can I help you?" "Help?" I forced a smile. "I used to know the people who lived here." She nodded. "We moved in 6 months ago. It's been wonderful." My stomach tightened. "Have you noticed anything strange?" She laughed. "Old houses always make funny noises." Then her smile faded. "Although," she glanced toward the second floor window, "our youngest daughter has an imaginary friend." My pulse quickened. "What's her friend's name?" The woman hesitated. "Emily." A cold wind swept across the yard. I looked toward the upstairs window. For just a fraction of a second, a little girl stood behind the glass. White dress, dark hair. She wasn't frightened anymore. She simply watched me. Then she slowly lifted one finger, pointing toward the front door. Not at herself. At the door. The same warning. "Don't let it happen again." I stepped onto the porch. The mother called after me. "Sir?" I turned. "Does your front door ever unlock by itself?" Her expression changed instantly. "How did you know?" She looked genuinely shaken. "My husband keeps blaming the kids, but every morning it stands wide open." My chest tightened. The nightmare wasn't over, it had only been sleeping. Before I could answer, a little girl laughed inside the house. The mother smiled. "That'll be Lily." She opened the front door. "No," I shouted. "Wait." Too late. The door swung inward. A freezing gust of air rushed past us. The temperature dropped so suddenly that our breath became visible. Every bird in the neighborhood stopped singing. The little girl's laughter inside the house stopped. Complete silence. Then, from somewhere upstairs, a grandfather clock began to tick. Tick, tick, tick. The mother frowned. "We don't own a clock." I slowly looked into the hallway. At the far end, a shadow moved. Long, thin, watching. Then it disappeared around the corner. The front door slowly closed by itself, without anyone touching it. I whispered the words I never wanted to say again. "It's inside." The mother stared at me in confusion. "What is?" Before I could answer, a child's voice echoed from upstairs, soft, sweet, completely innocent. "Mom, can Emily come out and play?" The mother's face went pale, because Lily had been an only child. She had never met anyone named Emily, yet somehow she already knew her name. For several seconds, no one moved. The mother stared up the staircase. "Sweetheart, who are you talking to?" No answer, only the slow, steady tick, 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 the sound of a grandfather clock that shouldn't have existed. I looked at the family. The father had just stepped into the hallway carrying grocery bags. A little girl, Lily, peeked over the upstairs railing. She couldn't have been older than 7. She looked perfectly normal, except she wasn't looking at her parents. She was looking behind me. Her smile slowly faded. Then she whispered, "He's here." Every light inside the house flickered. It's once, twice, then all at once. They went out. The hallway plunged into darkness. The front door slammed shut. A freezing wind swept through the living room. Family photographs crashed from the walls. Glass shattered across the floor. Lily screamed. Her parents rushed toward the staircase. "Stay back," I shouted, but they couldn't see what I saw. At the end of the hallway, the darkness was changing, stretching upward, taking shape. A figure nearly touching the ceiling. Long arms, featureless face. The same ancient presence. It hadn't died beneath the Ashcroft House. The house had never been its prison. The house had only been its doorway. Emily suddenly appeared beside Lily. Not as a ghost, not as a monster, just a little girl. She gently took Lily's hand. For the first time, Emily looked directly at me and smiled. A real smile. I remember now. The creature let out a deep, furious growl. The walls shook. Pictures fell. Windows cracked. Emily turned toward the creature. "You don't own me anymore." The ancient thing took one slow step forward. Its mouth opened. Hundreds of tiny teeth clicked together. "You belong to memory." Emily shook her head. "No, I belong to love." The creature hesitated just for a moment, and in that moment I understood it had never fed on fear. Fear only made people easier to erase. What truly weakened it was being remembered. I looked at Lily. "Say her name." The little girl blinked. "What?" "Say Emily," Lily whispered. "Emily." The room became brighter. The creature stepped backward. I looked at the parents. "Say her name." Confused but desperate, they obeyed. "Emily." Again. Emily!" The walls trembled. The darkness began pulling away from the corners. I shouted with everything I had. "Her name is Emily Ashcroft," the ancient creature screamed, a terrible sound that seemed to shake the entire valley. Outside, the wind stopped. Birds began singing again. Sunlight burst through the windows. The darkness peeled away from the creature like smoke. Its long body cracked. Fragments dissolved into the air. One by one, the stolen voices escaped. Children laughing, parents crying, old friends calling each other's names. Hundreds, maybe thousands, of forgotten memories returning to the world. The creature reached toward Emily one last time. She simply smiled. No. Then it disappeared. Not with an explosion, not with fire. It simply wasn't there anymore, as though it had finally been forgotten. The grandfather clock stopped. Forever. The silence that followed felt peaceful. Emily looked at me one final time. "Thank you for remembering." Her body slowly became transparent. Golden light surrounded her. She looked toward the sky, and somewhere beyond the ceiling, beyond the years she had lost. Then, she was gone. Not erased, freed. The Walker family never fully understood what had happened that day. To them, it felt like a strange power outage, a nightmare they all somehow shared. Within a week, they moved away. The house was demolished again. This time, the foundation was dug out completely. Workers later claimed they found nothing unusual beneath it. No chapel, no tunnels, no remains, just ordinary earth. As for me, I never returned to Black Hollow. I retired from photography, but every October 14th, I leave a single white flower beside an empty field where no house stands anymore. Most people who pass by think I'm honoring someone from my family. In a way, they are right, because after all these years, I still remember Emily Ashcroft, and maybe that's why she was finally free. People often ask me whether this story is true. I never answer. Instead, I ask them one simple question. Have you ever walked into an old house and felt like it already knew your name? If you ever do, and you find the front door standing open, don't assume someone forgot to close it, because some doors are waiting to be opened, and some places never really let anyone leave. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please do let me know if you liked it. Thank you all so much for watching the story to the end. I will see you again with a new story. Until then, take care of yourselves and your families. Goodbye.